Hello, Sandra. Welcome to the Animal Turn podcast. Just now, one thing that seemed to be kind of missing for me, or I wasn't too sure if this was part of your story, was were animal activists at all involved in fighting the fish farming happening in BC? Did this come up at all? Because sometimes there's a lot of conflicting ideas around, Indigenous rights and animal rights and who has what and how it works. Did this come up in your research at all?
No, I didn't. I didn't really find any time period where there were people looking after animal rights. But here's the thing.
Interesting.
First of all, these farms are out in the water in isolated areas. So they're
Mm.
not easy to get to, they're not easy to see. And even when you get to them, they look fine. I went to a fish farm and, there's these big square tracks with walkways around and it looks benign. The surface of water is flat. You can't see anything.
Mm.
And when you go up to the pans, the fish are jumping, little plops you hear, and it looks fine. It looks absolutely fine. It wasn't until the the Sea Shepherd Society, which is part of Greenpeace, they offered Alex a ship one summer so she could go around to all the areas. She could get to them in one summer because it's a big area, and do test the water near the fish farms for sea lice. And she thought it might be a good idea, since she was going into different First Nations territory, to invite First Nations onto this
Hmm.
ship. And they came along with her, and one of them or a couple of them decided, you know what, we're going to step on these fish farms. Alex could not step on the fish farms. That was made clear by industry pretty quickly. But we're now at a period of time where we're looking at reconciliation. We're examining how First Nations have been treated, how we want to treat them in the future. So when these First Nations got a GoPro, walked onto those walkways on fish farms, put the GoPro into the water, moved it around for a few minutes, and then came out and looked at the photos, they were shocked.
Mm.
That's when they saw the fish with gouges out of their faces or out of their sides, and you could see that they didn't look healthy. You could see that the pens were really crowded, despite what industry says about how they have so many feet per fish. You could see that they were really crowded, and that
Mm.
was probably part of why they were getting injured. That was really the first time that anyone had seen what actually happens on a fish farm. When you could see below the water, that's when it happened. And that happened in about, I'm trying to get my dates, but only less than a decade ago.
Mm.
So I think that's why the location of the farms, which are in the middle of nowhere, and the fact that once you went to the farms, you couldn't see anything anyway. So how
Yeah,
would you know that the animals were being mistreated?
yeah.
That was the main thing.
I'd forgotten about Sea Shepherd, but of course, Sea Shepherd's very much, an animal activist group and organization. So I'd forgotten about them, and that's a really good example, I think, um, of how they worked together with, the protest that came after that, with Indigenous folks coming aboard the Sea Shepherd and going onto some of these farms and also refusing to leave some of the farms until they were given answers, was really a powerful moment in the podcast. And I'm sure in the story and the evolution of this kind of battle between the salmon and the salmon people. And not the salmon and the salmon people, this battle between the salmon and the people who are trying to, I guess, profit off of the salmon.